In a world that is rapidly drowning in dating apps, dating strategies, PUAs, and the dichotomy of the blue pill and red pill communities, many of us find ourselves lost in a sea of conflicting advice. We live in a time where relationship gurus and pickup artists claim to hold the key to romantic success, all of them promising to reveal the hidden truths of the dating world. And so, it's no wonder why so many of us get overwhelmed by the noise. But what if I told you that true dating wisdom doesn't lie in subscribing to any one community or tactic, but in understanding the deeper complexities of human connections? Surprise, surprise. And so, the goal of today's video is really to debunk the myths that perpetuate unrealistic dating expectations and challenge the very essence of these communities. And the reason is because I genuinely want to shake the very foundation of dating advice as you know it, so I can provide you with a better alternative, one that I believe to be more constructive and sustainable in the long run. Now, before we dive into this subject, please make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Let's get started. Alright, let me share a story with you. I want to share a tale of a boy that started out with a shit ton of rejection and teenage awkwardness. You see, at some point in time, I used to be that guy. I used to be the guy who would buy flowers for a girl, hoping to win her heart, only to face the same disappointment time and time again. Yeah. No shit. I could never understand why me, the nice guy, wasn't even able to get a girl's number, while all my friends were getting laid on a daily basis. And I very vividly remember the feeling of frustration and shame because of this. Now, all of this changed in 2009 when I found myself lying on this beautiful beach somewhere in Mexico. I was there under that clear sky and the calming waves in the background when I felt that something had to change. I was just tired of being rejected and disheartened all the time. So that day, I made a very adamant decision. I promised myself that I was going to crack the code of dating. I was going to find a way to never ever get rejected again. And so I embarked upon this quest to master pickup, to learn lines and tactics that would make me irresistible to women. Just kidding. But I started to read books such as The Game from Neil Strauss and devour pretty much every piece of content I could find on dating and relationships. I would watch videos of mystery in action or read The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene. And my early 20s quickly became this whirlwind of learning, experimenting, and refining my approach. I started to apply all these strategies, honing my skills, and I won't lie, for a long time it was fun, it was exhilarating. I experienced moments of triumph, but I also encountered times of confusion and doubt. Yet through it all, I learned so much about myself and the dynamics of dating. However, I also felt like something was missing. I just couldn't shake off this feeling that there was a crucial puzzle piece I hadn't discovered yet until only a couple of years ago. It was as if I had been so focused on finding that external validation that I neglected the most vital relationship of all, which is the relationship with myself. And so after one chapter of my dating journey came to an end, a new dawn emerged. I began to explore a different path, one that evolved more around genuine connections, authenticity, and vulnerability. And in doing so, I realized that the key to a meaningful relationship wasn't in mastering lines or strategies, but in understanding and embracing the best advice anyone could ever give you, which is just be yourself. It sounds almost too easy, doesn't it? Just be yourself. But within those three words lies a world of wisdom and truth that can redefine your dating journey entirely if you're willing to hear me out. Because I get it. This is probably the most counterintuitive blue pill dating advice that goes against everything you've been taught when it comes to attracting women. Like me, you probably thought that to win over the most attractive girl in the room, you'd have to be like some slick pickup artist armed with an extensive repertoire of strategies and one-liners in your arsenal. And sure, there is a time and a place for such approaches, and they probably will even yield some results. However, having done all of this for, I would say, almost over a decade, I wouldn't advise any guy to spend endless hours trying to master the art of seduction with countless strategies. Because while these tactics can be effective in certain situations, they often miss the mark when it comes to creating genuine connections. Because I can tell you from first-hand experience, there is a huge difference between getting the girl and keeping the girl. And sure, I absolutely agree that sometimes employing a strategy can be useful to create a higher level of attraction in certain situations, especially if you're needy and have this tendency of constantly putting women on a pedestal. For instance, if a girl usually tends to take a couple of hours to respond to your messages, mirroring her texting style by not always replying immediately within a minute is probably the right move, because it conveys in a subtle manner that you have a life of your own and that you're not always at her beck and call. This immediately brings me to the issue of this subject. You're appearing to be busy instead of actually being busy. You're pretending to have a life instead of actually having a life. And pretending to be someone you're not, well, that usually tends to backfire. And this is exactly why I believe that relying solely on these kinds of strategies can feel disingenuous and hollow. Because in the end, what truly matters is you having the ability to be and express your authentic self, and by doing so, connect with someone on a deeper level. And here's where things get interesting, because what does it even mean to be yourself? Just be yourself. The reality is, most people have no clue who they are. And so the concept of being yourself, even though it's often thrown around so casually, actually holds a more profound philosophical implication. It raises questions about identity, self-awareness, the role of societal expectations and cultural norms. And so one could ask himself, is being yourself simply about embracing your natural inclinations, or does it involve a deeper journey of self-discovery and personal growth? You know, my mom, in all her infinite wisdom, she once shared a very powerful insight with me. She said, "The thing that is supposed to be the easiest in life appears to be the most difficult, which is just being yourself." Isn't it ironic? Like, think about it. Being the person you already are should be the most natural thing in the world. It should be effortless. But pretending to be someone you're not generally requires tremendous amounts of effort. Like, we've all experienced the drain of putting on a facade, whether it's at a job we despise or in any other situation. And part of the reason for that exhaustion is because we're constantly faking and adopting a persona that doesn't align with our true selves. And so those words, when I heard them from my mom, they really struck a chord within me, and they've stayed with me ever since. And I actually believe that there is only two primary reasons why people often struggle with being and expressing who they truly are. The first reason is that many of us become entangled in arbitrary outcomes, especially when it comes to dating. Like, the moment we approach a woman at the bar, in the supermarket, or anywhere else, we're driven by this underlying desire to achieve a specific result, be it getting a phone number, forming a romantic relationship, or simply getting laid. And it's precisely this desperate longing that ironically hinders us from achieving our desired outcome. Now, the second reason stems from the fear of rejection. It's a common fear that has held all of us back from being authentic at some point in our lives. The problem, however, is that most men are so afraid of being rejected by women that they're willing to either hide, or worse, alter a piece of themselves, of their soul, to receive something that may not have been meant for them in the first place. And the irony of it all is that in this endless pursuit of validation, you already rejected yourself before anyone else even got the chance to. It's the ultimate form of self-sabotage.
That's classic self-sabotage.
But what if there is a different way? What if embracing our genuine selves could be the key to forming authentic connections and attracting the right people into our lives? I personally think it's absolutely possible if you possess the willingness and courage to decide to finally embrace and express who you truly are. And I know it's scary, because expressing who you truly are means that you have to pick sides. Like, you can no longer blend in like a chameleon trying to get everybody's approval. And the consequence of such a choice is clear. Some will genuinely appreciate you, while others may not. Rejection is therefore inevitable. Now, I believe that each of us has to go through 4 crucial stages in order to express our highest self. And the first stage is to actually get to know yourself, right? Know thyself. We've all heard this before. So what drives you? What are your beliefs, your conceptions of the world, etc.? What do you value most in life? And more importantly, why so? Like, you really have to start taking inventory, because these core values become the very foundation upon which you'll build your authentic expression. The second stage requires both the ability as well as the courage to articulate who you are and what you stand for. Imagine being in a room filled with people who all received 3 vaccinations during the COVID pandemic and you didn't. In this scenario, you should have been able to confidently express your stance and be glad about your decision. It's one of these moments when sitting on the fence is no longer an option, so you must learn to communicate your beliefs and values with clarity and assertiveness. The third stage is where you take it a step further and exhibit the willingness and courage to defend those values. Ideally, this defense takes the form of healthy discourse where you can engage in, let's say, constructive discussions with others. However, if circumstances leave you no choice, you'll even defend your values physically if required. Now, this doesn't necessarily imply violence, but rather standing up for what you believe in with unwavering conviction. And finally, the fourth stage. This stage represents, let's say, the pinnacle of embracing and expressing your truest self. It's the stage of ultimate commitment and dedication to your values, to the point where you're willing to go to the extremes and make significant sacrifices or even lay down your life for what you hold dear. For example, someone like Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in a South African prison camp, stubbornly pursuing the cause he believed would free his people. Most people will probably never reach this fourth stage, simply because they will most likely never find themselves facing such extreme tests of their beliefs, which might be a good thing, as this stage requires a depth of conviction that goes beyond the ordinary challenges most of us encounter on a day-to-day basis. As such, only a select few will probably ever ascend to this pinnacle of embracing and expressing their truest self. Now, it's important to understand that each stage builds upon the previous one, and that the journey to self-expression is one of continuous growth and evolution. However, I promise you that if you decide to go down this road, you'll finally get a real taste of what it means to live your life on your own terms and to find a sense of true purpose. And in doing so, you'll get to experience a newfound confidence which radiates from within and isn't built upon this sandcastle of external validation. Because I said this before, most men are either addicted to ejaculation or validation until they're a slave of both, a master of none. This is just another reason why it's so important to break free from this vicious cycle to get constant approval and embrace your truest self. And so I believe that if you want to become truly successful with women, this is the secret sauce. Trust me, there is nothing more attractive to a woman than a man who is in tune with his own thoughts and his own emotions. It just automatically radiates an aura of confidence that is magnetic and irresistible. How many times have you encountered someone who was trying just a little too hard to impress a woman, saying what he thought she wanted to hear or putting on a facade just to fit in her frame? Women can immediately sense when you're not being authentic, and so inevitably it creates this barrier between you and the woman you're trying to connect with. On the other hand, when you have the courage to be real, to be vulnerable, and express your true thoughts and feelings, you create an instant connection with them. You become relatable, approachable, genuine. And these are all qualities that are incredibly attractive. So, Habibi, in conclusion, if you want to experience true success with women, remember this: the most attractive person you can ever be is yourself. So go out there. Show her the real you. Have the courage to be authentic, to be vulnerable, to be genuine. Because that, my friend, that is how you become savage.